Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 1559, written by Anonymous. The Mystery of Johnny from the Desert. My best friend and I were driving through the desert on a cross-country road trip. We pulled into a rest stop at night. I remember it was the first rest stop after the one near the Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. I got out and began refilling our water bottles. And my friend came along because it was unfamiliar territory. A tall, thin man came walking up to us and asked if we'd mind sharing the water spigot. He looked a little tweaked out, a little nervous, but didn't come across as threatening towards us. He was very open and friendly, introducing himself. It's been years, but I think he gave his name as Johnny. We ended up sitting down and talking for a while. Morgan, my friend, and I broke out some provisions and made a midnight picnic. Johnny asked our story, and we talked about the trip so far. We asked Johnny's story. It started out normally enough. I've been away from home for a long time, lost my way, working my way back, getting my head right. Then it got a little more weird. His dad was an evil man, a man with the devil inside him. Not the devil himself, he said, that would just be crazy, but a serious dose of evil lived in the heart of Johnny's dad, and that's what Johnny had run away from. It messed him up pretty bad, he said. Living close to an evil like that is almost radioactive. It bleeds off, gets into your hair, your clothes, your skin, and your thoughts. He was ashamed he ran away, he said, but he needed time to build his strength. He spoke to his ancestors in the desert, he said. He had a vision quest, and his path was made clear. Now he was going back to face his father. You can't just hide from the devil forever, you know. So we figured Johnny was a little nuts, but we were on a road trip, and hearing him out seemed like the thing to do. Finally, it was time for us to get back on the road. We were driving on through to Vegas, and Johnny had an appointment to keep. We left him sitting there with a bottle of water and a bag of jerky. Nuts or not, we had it to spare, and he looked like he could use it. He wasn't carrying anything with him but his clothes. We drove to Vegas, then through to California. We spent a week in Modesto, enjoying perfect weather and real mountains. Then drove to Seattle and cut across to Yellowstone. We spent a week camping in the backcountry, then started home. We pull into a rest stop in South Dakota near the Badlands, and I'm stretching my legs when I hear, "Hey, how was Vegas?" And there was Johnny, 2,000 miles and 3 weeks and change later, standing in front of us in broad daylight. Case file 1559, The Mystery of Johnny from the Desert. So you were acting as inspiration for each other, almost like guardian angels, but maybe more so for Johnny. And then meeting him again later on are pushing into astronomical odds. It just couldn't happen, right? Unless something willed it to happen. Or maybe you were drawn to each other, through your own energies intermingling and needing each other. My guess is that little interaction you had gave him the necessary catalyst, the spark, to go on, press on, and face his father, face his demon. And I really hope he did. Case file number 1560, written by CabJack05. Dreambound Chronicles. I have several stories, but I'll go with the weirdest one. I have a friend who writes fantasy stories. She has a few unpublished novels and probably hundreds of short stories. Before going back to school, I would write fairly occasionally as well, so we would often discuss ideas for stories late at night. One evening, I was talking to her online and she hinted at a story she was writing that had a character based on me as the main villain. That was the only detail she provided before I logged off for the day. I went to bed early that night and had a vivid, detailed dream about being chased by several people in a large tower. I could see every detail on the eclectic mix of people who were after me, down to what they were carrying. There were several events that occurred in the dream that are hardly worth mentioning here, but the people in the dream exchanged dialogue at times, both with me and with each other. In the morning, I got online and told my friend about the vivid dream I had. I didn't get a reply for a while until she told me to check my email. In my inbox was a chapter from her book that she wrote the night before while I was sleeping. It was the one with my character in it, confronting the heroes of the story in this tower. Each detail was the same, with the exception of the dialogue, which was essentially the same, but not verbatim. The odd thing is, I wasn't even weirded out. At the time, it seemed perfectly natural that I would dream about what she was writing while I was asleep. Case file 1560, Dreambound Chronicles. One of the most exciting stories I've ever read. Pure interconnected minds. Minds are advanced biological computers. Computers can easily connect to each other via Wi-Fi, the internet, so why not human brains too? I think we do all the time on the subconscious level. I think the dreamlike state is sort of like that. Sure, we're inside our own subconscious, but I think we're sharing with other minds too, maybe more in the vicinity of each other, but I don't know if distance really matters all that much. It's more about who our minds have made contact with and connected with, establish that connection. But like with computers, you can close off your ports, and if you close off your ports, your firewall is up. Maybe then you're shut off and you won't experience this. Now, how do you open them, close them? That's a tough one. It's not as simple as going on a computer and pressing a button. Interpreting information, even if all your ports are open, is not simple, even for the subconscious, which is why it makes sense to me that the dialogue interpretation was not verbatim, so you lost something in translation. Case file number 1561, written by TheYuri, The Enchanted Wardrobe. I was about 6 or 7, at a birthday party for someone I didn't know well. Being a shy kid, I looked for a place with not too many people and ended up wandering into a bedroom. I sat down on the floor with a comic book. After a few minutes, an old lady came into the bedroom, didn't notice I was there, opened the wardrobe door, went inside and closed the door behind her. I thought that was strange, so I got up and opened the door. The wardrobe was full of ladies' dresses. I closed the door and went back to my place on the floor, trying to figure it out. I had barely sat down. The wardrobe opened and a young lady came out. A young lady that looked a lot like the old lady that had gone in, only young. When she left the bedroom, I went to investigate again. This time, I went into the wardrobe and found a door in the back. I opened it and entered an enchanted land, a young girl's bedroom, but with trays of candy and boxes of brand new toys everywhere. Looking behind me, I noticed a wardrobe exactly like the one I had left in the previous bedroom. Finally, I freaked out and went back the way I'd come. I looked for my mom and told her my story of the magic wardrobe that turned old ladies into young ladies and the fairyland with all the candy and toys. My mom had a laughing fit. As it turns out, these people had purchased 2 houses that shared a wall. They wanted to create a passage between them, but unfortunately that shared wall was between the 2 bedrooms, and there was no convenient place for wardrobes in any of them. The candy and toys were for the birthday party, and the old and young ladies were mother and daughter. So how did the wardrobes get there? And how did they connect 2 rooms through a solid wall? Case file 1561, The Enchanted Wardrobe. Chronicle of Narnia vibes indeed. Fiction so often borrows from reality. Maybe vice versa, but I think definitely both. There's a solid wall, not supposed to be a wardrobe there, and then there was, at least for a moment in time. You didn't mention if you went back to check again. I'm guessing not. Or if you did, it wasn't there anymore. But it's pretty clear that you really did cross into the other room. You described it as it was. And it wasn't a magical fantasy land. It was just the other side of the home, the 2 homes connected. But it passed through a solid wall. That's not supposed to be able to do that. On the quantum level, sure, particles do that all the time, electrons mostly. Not us in the macro scale, not supposed to happen. Hope you got some candy out of it. Now time for the joke of the day. I was wondering why the ball was getting bigger. Then it hit me. Decent hit. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Oh, and Dave is okay. Kinetic Symphony signing off.